Welcome to the Winning with Shopify podcast. This is the podcast to help you scale your Shopify store into a money-making machine. Email has the highest ROI of all marketing channels. Are you maximizing its potential and growing your list? Drive conversions and create more connections with Seguno, the top-rated email marketing platform built exclusively for Shopify. Seguno is offering Winning with Shopify listeners an extended free trial, plus a complimentary strategy session with an email marketing expert. Visit seguno.com/winningwithshopify to claim your offer. Now, over to your host, Nick Truman.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Winning with Shopify podcast. For anyone that's not tuned in before, it's an absolute pleasure to have you tuning into the show. I don't know whether it was today's title or the color of our logo, which is incredibly bright. We used to joke about putting sunglasses on when we were looking at it during our rebrand. But yeah, great to have you tuning in. If you like today's show, leave us a review, hit the subscribe button. If you've been tuning in for a while, then welcome back. Such a pleasure to have you with us. I've been talking to quite a few of you guys recently. I think it's like 30, 40, possibly even 50 of you. I've spoken to the last 3 or 4 months. We offered some free audits, some PPC and SEO, and you guys came in your absolute waves, and it's been so good to talk to all of you and find out more about your business and see what's going on and see who's tuning in. Unfortunately, the audits are finished now. You can't get those. Apologies if I've just raised any interest. We're not doing them. We had loads and they were quite time consuming by the end, but we've done as many as we can. Anyway, enough waffle from me. Today, we're talking about a very interesting topic. We're carrying on this series about email. Now, if you have any questions about email or any other topics you'd like us to cover on the podcast, then please do reach out to us. hello@winningwithshopify.com or check out winningwithshopify.com. Fill out one of the forms on the website. Today is the big one, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about Black Friday and we're talking about Cyber Monday. How exciting. It's the middle of September, coming up to the middle of September, and here we are talking about something that seems months away, but actually you should get preparing for this now and you should start doing things now and engaging with your customers now. Joining me today is an absolute expert in this field. He's got quite a lot of experience, certainly with email around Black Friday and Cyber Weekend, as we call it, and going into peak. His name is Brian, and he is the customer team lead at Seguno. So Brian, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Nick. I'm really excited to be here and talk about all things email. It feels like it's months away, but I promise you'll blink, it'll be here before you know it. So.
Absolutely. And we, like a lot of our clients, and we're going to try and avoid anyone who's listening to today having the same thing. Lots of our clients hit us on like the day before Black Friday going, everything's half price. And we're like, what? We don't have time to come up with creatives and launch content and do link building and all the stuff we do. We don't have time for that, let alone what you guys do on the email side. But just before we dive in, Brian, give us a little bit of a background to yourself and a little bit about what you do at Seguno.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the email space for about 8 or 9 years. In a previous life, I worked primarily with enterprise level clients. So I had a much bigger business where, I would work with, the Unilevers and the Estee Lauders and brands that had teams of on their marketing, 10, 12 people managing their marketing team. But, the ones that I always enjoyed the most was working with the smaller merchants where it was the actual founders, the people that are doing the business and building the business. And those all tended to be Shopify merchants. So, it was a lot of fun when I would get on the call with 2 founders, one of them who had an e-com and a D2C background, and the other who had family connections to a foundry. And now we know them as Made in Cookware. And it was so cool to work with that brand when it was the founders building their very first welcome series ever.
Wow. Nice.
And so that was, it was really cool. Fast forward a couple of years. I had enough of the enterprise level life and got to reconnect with a couple of former colleagues who founded Seguno and, get to work with those similar merchants that I love with the small stories, with their unique problems, with their own challenges and how they build their businesses themselves. So I joined Seguno. I now lead the customer team, which is going to be your customer support, success, deliverability, basically all things to make sure that our merchants are as successful as possible. Especially around the key times like Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
Nice. And you're in quite a unique position then. I'm going to go on a slight tangent before we come back to Black Friday email. I said this was going to happen, and all our regular listeners know that I always do this. And by the way, for anyone listening, I still have my sore throat, so apologies if I'm coughing a lot. But answer this question for me if you can, Brian. So many, and I'll give you some context to this, so many small businesses, they look at like big marketing teams, like you said, like, the Unilevers of this world. They look at those guys and go, well, we're just not that big. We can't compete with those guys. Like, if only we had the billions to spend on marketing and had a bigger team and everything else going on. I mean, we work with, small Shopify startups right up to those corporates. So we see both sides. The corporate world, when you've got all that backing, all those people, that finance, that's not always like a blessing, is it? It can also be a curse. And you lose that passion that you mentioned with the founders, don't you?
You do. You absolutely do. You lose the connection that you have with the product and with your store, your values. It's natural. Those are the success stories. Those are little brands that grew to be massive. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's going to happen. But the other thing that comes with a lot of that is a lot of the process and the disconnect for the creative, where you say, hey, this is my vision and this is my dream and my product. But then you've played that game of telephone three levels down,
Yep.
and the way that it actually goes out to your customers is a little bit different. And the other thing is that it all becomes just about these weird margins. You have to get into the new things. You can't decide what's the most important thing to your own business at that level. And so that's one of the pieces that I really enjoy working with the smaller folks, is that we can say, hey, this is the problem. This is what I want to tackle. And then we have that agility, especially with the tools that you have in Shopify, to say, hey, I want to do something about this today. And, in the previous life, my projects would take 30, 60, 90 days. I had some projects that would last half a year. And what I do with these merchants is basically over the course of 3 days, I can set up all of your automations and we can move on to the next piece that is more important to you. So I really enjoy that.
Yeah. So I think a really important point, actually, just to make to all of our listeners, is a lot of you'll be sitting there looking at like the grass is green on the corporate world. And as I love those examples you've given as well, Brian, about how long things take. We sometimes, and this is a kind of guilty, kind of coming clean from me, is some of our larger clients, we sometimes start clocking hours and then we work out how long do we spend talking versus how long do we spend doing. And small clients, it tends to be early days, there might be a bit of education piece, but it tends to be like 80 to 90% of the time we're making changes, we're writing content, we're launching advertising campaigns, we're analyzing data to then make a change. And as you say, like, we're agile, we can just do it straight away. Whereas the corporate guys, you could definitely end up with like 60, 70% of your time just chatting. And then they're like, oh, and now show us some results, justify what you've all done with your time, whether you're staff, agencies, whatever. And you're like, well, not much, because somebody decided the buzzword of today was outcomes and we've got to deal with that. And it's like, well, okay, fine. So yeah, the grass is always greener, isn't it? And I think certainly everything we're going to talk about today is about how nimble we can be actually with a system like Seguno, a system like Shopify, a small business where it's like, okay, we've got an idea, we can execute and deploy that within hours. So I guess we've mentioned it a couple of times already. Let's talk about the first question then, Brian, which is, why should we start thinking about Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and peak? I'm going to kind of throw peak in the mix today as well, because that's coming as well. So as soon as you're out of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's like peak's here, Christmas for a lot of people. Why should we start thinking about that now? What's the advantage? Like, why shouldn't we just wait until a week before, get the campaigns ready and launch them?
Yeah, I mean, if you love chaos, you can wait until the week before. You can procrastinate. But the planning aspect is what's going to allow you to take just getting the emails out and turn it into a coherent program where you can drive that success. The pieces that you want to think of, and a lot of times I'm sure you deal with this too, Nick, is you think about the sales funnel. And that customer experience, it starts way at the top of the funnel. It starts out with your ads, and then it brings them onto the site. And then it nurtures them with the automations and with the messages. And being able to coordinate all of those pieces is going to stop all those leaks in those funnels. And it's going to improve your margins, your overall success. So yes, if you want to just jump on Thursday night and say, oh my God, I'm so full from all the turkey, but I got to get an email out, you're going to get some sales probably. But if you want to have your best Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or as it's trending now, Gray November, a little bit of extra thought now is going to make it so much more successful for you.
Absolutely. And interesting thing, you just mentioned the top of funnel and actually engaging customers early. Something we've been doing that's been really interesting is we've started significantly increasing budgets, certainly on Google Adverts, or Google Ads, sorry. We've been doing that like sometimes at the end of September. So actually October, we sort of take the approach with clients going, look, peak's just going to be, the Black Friday all the way through peak. It's going to be successful. We're going to make a really good ROI. So we might as well actually build some audiences now and say that half of September, all of October and some of November, we're not going to be profitable. Or actually, if we're profitable, it's a lovely accident. We're going to go below our normal kind of break-even profit margin. We're going to invest loads of money now so that when the sale goes live, we've got those audiences. And what I mean by audiences was, it might be just a ton of IP addresses or an audience in the back of Google Ads that's like people that have seen our ad, clicked our ad, been on our website, etc. But actually, where you guys come in on the email side as well is really exciting, isn't it? Because an audience for you is like, it's a list of email addresses. I can write something, click a button. And as we found out from your colleague, Catherine, a couple of weeks ago, which if anyone missed that episode, check that episode out as well. We're talking about email design. And something Catherine said that I thought was lovely was just keep it simple. It's so tempting to go like, oh, add this. Catherine was saying, no, just, banner image, a quick message, a quick call to action and get it out there. So it's simple to digest. But you guys on email, you have this advantage that I don't, which is I have to pay Google to reach people. Whereas actually building that audience, and would you start to come up with a hook like pre-Black Friday to get people engaged, then do something with them? Is that a good tactic, a good technique?
Yeah, I love that you brought up Catherine. I get to work with Catherine every day, and I was actually talking with her yesterday about, she found a bit from Shopify that said 65% of consumers plan to do all of their holiday shopping before Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
Wow.
And so when you're talking about scaling up your ads now, that is so important because you want to be top of mind at that point.
Yeah.
But then you also need to consider what you're going to do to nurture them. And, there's so much more that we can do with, we can simplify the message, but when you're driving all that traffic, it's so important to think about the experience that you're giving them when they come to the site. And so that's one thing, you're driving the traffic. You've got your budget absolutely blown out. The cool thing is you're paying for all that, but you own the subscribers that you have for your email marketing. And it's an incredibly affordable channel, but it also has the highest ROI. We're talking about a really good return on ad spend is 6x, maybe something in that point. We're pretty happy. When you're dealing with email marketing, we're talking about, a good program or an average program is 26x ROI, but when you really hone it in, you're at 50x ROI. And you own that list. You're not, having to worry about, did Facebook change their algorithm? Did TikTok change their algorithm? Did I use the wrong word and now Google has, put a cloud over me? There's just so much value.
GA4 turns up out of nowhere, and it's like, okay, that's the next 6 months of my life just stolen.
One of my favorite episodes was listening to your, I would say your.
Oh, my rant was it?
Yes, I wasn't going to use that word rant. About
it was a rant.
GA4.
I told Byron to put that in the title, but yeah.
It was very honest, and I appreciate it. But there's a lot that we can do there. So when you're driving that, you're increasing that ad spend. The next piece that I think about in the funnel is what happens when they land on the site. How many new customers, new eyes do you have in your site for the first time? And then what are you doing to try to hold on to those? One thing that people will tell me about is they say, I've spent all this money on Facebook ads and everything else. I say, great. So how many of those are purchasing? And they say, oh, it's this small percent. Great. Well, how many
2
of those
or 3% is good. Yeah. So you're driving, let's say 10,000, and you've got 9,000, 9,800 of those that are not purchasing, but you paid for them. You paid for that traffic. Try to get them to subscribe. Think about how you can add value to them, bring them into your email program, and then you can nurture them so much more and get them to make that purchase. And if you're doing that ad spend now in preparation for that great November, just spend a little bit of that extra time now to think about what does your site experience look like and how do you bring those people into your owned audience instead of an audience that you have to pay for every time. Yeah, nice. Okay, there's like 3 or 4 things I'm going to pick out. I love it when I get an answer like that from a guest. I think there's quite a few things. I guess the first one really is to say that, okay, that statistic from Shopify, the 65% of people shopping pre-Black Friday. What does that mean for email campaigns right now then? What does that mean that, we're nearly the middle of September. What does that mean people should be doing today as a result of that statistic?
Absolutely. That's a really great question. That preparation is really key. So a couple of things that I want to be thinking about now. Really, it's going to be about making sure that my foundational pieces are in place, and we'll talk about list growth, automations, and then our newsletters or promotions. And there's a lot that goes into each of those. But when you're talking about 65% shopping before November and before that all-important time, putting a little bit of planning into what your promotions are going to be, whether that's a discount promotion or if it's a more emotional promotion that you're going to run through the holidays, building that calendar out now, and not just when you're going to send, but when you're going to make the emails, when you're going to coordinate, to your point earlier about social, when you're going to coordinate all those posts that you get everything kind of running aligned. That's going to be really key for you right there. One tactic that I always like to use is I say, hey, when's the last time you went to your site as a new viewer? Open up an incognito window, go onto your website. We all downloaded and installed dozens of apps over the course of the year, and a lot of them left a little widget there. So what is that? Is that a clean experience? Is that a welcoming experience? Or is that a chaotic experience? Oh my God, I don't need a push notification. I don't need to know what so-and-so in Riverside just bought. I don't need to know all these other things. What's it going to be like? It's going to be more kind of getting there. So there's a couple of key pieces there with those. Again, those 3 with the list growth, so your customer acquisition, and then the automations. What are you doing to kind of guide them through? Really important one there is going to be your welcome series, which we can talk a bit more about. And then again, your marketing calendar. What are your promotions going to be for your newsletters? and then which customers are you going to try to target with each of those promotions.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with everything you said. And I think coming back to another point you just made, which I think ties into this as well, is like the value of email. So we're talking about list growth, talking about automation, but the value of email is so important. And if anyone's been listening to this whole series, you'll hear me say this every week. So I'm going to say it now and then it's out of the way. We work so hard to get new customers into people's stores. So if you're not getting that 26, 27 return on investment from email, or as you say, 50 when it's really getting up there, if you're not getting that, not getting your second sale, this is going to be financially, it's going to be such a painful experience for you trying to grow your business. It's going to be really, really difficult because it's so expensive to acquire a customer now and customer demands are so high. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point. And I guess the third point is you've just said about list growth. Is there, and this is my third question back to that previous answer,
Sure.
Is there anything people should be doing differently in pre Black Friday, or as you say, grey November? I've not actually heard that before. I love that. It makes a lot of sense. Is there anything people should be doing differently with their subscriber list growth? So like the way you're trying to hook people in, is there something you should be doing differently through peak than the classic, like sign up to our newsletter or here's 15% of your first order or, whatever. Is there something people should be doing differently through Black Friday to acquire those people?
No, it's great. I think the big piece for me and kind of what goes into having a successful list growth strategy versus what we all think of as, pop-ups as the dirty word where it just annoys you on the website. Is how are you
overlays? So I like to call them overlays these days. Not pop-ups. Overlays. It's just a different
overlays.
Word,
whichever one you want to think about. It's does it add value to the subscribers shopping, or excuse me, to the shopper session, or does it distract them and annoy them? So typically we'll recommend saying, hey, let's think about kind of that short-term win and that long-term win. Why do they want to subscribe? Is it the 10% off?
Okay.
Great. Or is it a spin to win where it's just like let's just play the game and I don't really care if I get an email or not. It should be more about enhancing what they're going to expect from your brand, especially around the shopping season. So if you want to say, if you want to update that short-term win to say, hey, we still have the 10% off, and we're going to send you the gift guides for the most difficult shoppers on your list this year. Like, oh my God, tell me what to get for that.
That's cool.
Your dad that you've never known. Like, how many times do you get there and you're like, what do you get for a dad that thinks you pay too much for everything? Or the dad that wears the same T-shirt since middle school. How do we find the right gifts for each of those folks? So you can change it into that way. You can also start to talk more about sneak peeks for what your holiday promotions are going to be like. So you don't have to wait to the end. Our subscribers get early access to all of our holiday promotions. And that's really easy for you to be able to do. Especially with Seguno, we can actually make unique discount codes for each subscriber. Shameless plug there, but it's really cool because you can set it up ahead of time and say, hey, early access for our subscribers starts now. And so if there's something that's lower inventory and they're trying to keep an eye on that, that's a really big value prop to offer to them.
Nice. So many good options then. I think the main overarching point I think that's really, really clear is just you need to do something of value. I use the phrase a lot, and again, people have been scrolling, like, this all the time, I say this, but marketing's been lost from digital marketing. Like, we're so engrossed in, like, if it's that product I put on there with a buy button, people buy, and if it's that product, buy button, they don't. Well, you trump all of that by just going, as you say, like how to buy for someone who's difficult, how to purchase that difficult gift. You're solving a problem now, and all it's taken is a bit of research on your side to go, how do you buy a difficult gift, and just give people some creative ideas of, like, you try this. What you're actually doing is going, here's a header, which is like how to find a difficult gift, and here's loads of our products, which is a really smart way of doing things. And coming on to final point before I think we move on to the next point, we might go on another tangent, but going on your own website, the only thing I would add is do it on a mobile device. I love everything you said about, like, go on the website and see what the pop-ups are, what's the user journey, what's the engagement, okay, I click here, what happens next? Yeah. And doing it incognito, as you say, get the full experience, the cookie message. But the amount of sites I've been on that's like, okay, you get rid of the cookie message because that's always the first thing. Then you get the live chat popping up and you're like, I don't even know who you are, I'm not ready to have a conversation. Close the live chat. And then it's like 15% off your first email. And now you're like, do I know enough to give you my email address? But if I don't, am I going to lose the 15%? So if I close that and don't give you my email address, now I feel devalued, or I'm going to have to go on another incognito browser to do it later, which a lot of people are getting savvy to. But I think delaying some of those like pop-ups and overlays to say like, let's do it at the right time, have live chat available, but maybe it doesn't show until someone's been on the site for 30 seconds. So it's enough time to get through the overlay, and maybe to get through the cookie message. Instead of the overlay, you might go, actually, let's have a little banner at the top of the site. So actually they can engage with the sign up for the welcome discount with your email address in their own time. So I've been reading so much and testing with our clients recently about these kind of little things. But I think it's really key. I love the ideas you've given actually about Black Friday, about that being different. It's a different time of year, different season. And actually, like your merchant Todd we had on last week, he, their market are people that are into American football. So he was saying like they'll put a post out an hour before kickoff of a game in the evenings. So every evening they do that, and every morning they send a different thing out that's like, did you see so and so's performance last night? Well, we've got a signed product with his signature on it, which is really cool. So I think that timing as well is really, really key. And I guess on that point, like with Black Friday, timing must be really important because everyone's doing Black Friday. You don't want to just be in the mix of that because your email's going to get missed. So I guess a really key question is, how do you get that timing right? How do you avoid the noise? Do you do Black Friday at a different time? When do you start Black Friday to get in front of people's inboxes?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to hone in on one other thing there that you mentioned with the 50% off on the pop-up. When you sometimes, and this is something that I like to encourage each merchant to kind of test on their own, when you offer a discount before they've had a chance to look at their product, you have told them that my product needs a 15% discount. Hold off on that. We don't need to devalue your products yet. Let them shop around. Maybe we put that discount on an exit intent from the cart page, or maybe we put that discount on the actual product page itself, or we require that they view 5 other pages first. They found the product they know that they want, and now that discount, rather than cheapen the experience, has said, oh, let me push you over the edge to that conversion. So just something there to kind of play around with. But
nice.
I love that you brought up Todd. He's able to do some really amazing things because their products are so unique, and he can tie into something, how he has an event for most of these American football fan bases every week that he can then tie into and then play off of that the following Monday. But, when we're talking about something that's annual, full year, it's a little bit different. Everybody knows right now that, hey, I'm going to start prepping for Christmas gifts. I think my wife has like a note on her iPhone that she comes up with Christmas gift ideas year round. Me, I'm there at the last minute. I'm like, oh my God, it's December 22nd and I've got to travel tomorrow. So we're going to one spot and everybody's getting something really tasty.
Amazon, something like that.
Go for the consumables. I love the consumable gifts. But when you're planning the calendar out and you have to think about how to get that attention ahead of everybody else, who shopped with you last year for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You can go directly into your Shopify customer segments and you say, when was that first purchase date or that last purchase date? And give yourself a window for last year. That's super easy to do. You can target those folks. You know who your VIPs are. You build that segment. You can use for both of those. One strategy that we like to use is say, hey, what if you let them know what to expect? So what if you went ahead and told them, very transparent, rather than just, oh my God, flash sale. Hey, on Monday, I'm having a sale on trousers. On Tuesday, it's going to be t-shirts. Wednesday is going to be belts and accessories. And Saturday is exciting change. I'll let you know what to go through. You can tell them what to expect. They can plan to shop with you. They can go ahead and find the ideas that they want. And then you run through your 5 days of promotions, whatever it might be, Monday through Friday. Saturday, you run the whole thing back. And now they built up to all the excitement. They made their first purchase, said, oh man, I really wish I bought that same gift for someone else. Saturday, you get to double dip. And then that still allows you to run with all of the other promotions that you're going to do. So you can capture your most engaged audience that already know your product, they know your company, your value. And then when you get back closer to the typical gift buying, you can still run with your gift guides. You can still run with some of those, hey, Black Friday or, Small Business Saturday. You can still run some of those other promotions that you need to do there with, and that's, again, going to be digging into a newer audience that you have where you've already captured your most valuable ones. So.
Wow. I mean, that tactic of saying like, right, here's our calendar for next week, and then sending an email out every day about what we're pushing out. I mean, that's so good. And then Saturday as well, going, in case you missed it last week, 24 hours only, all the discounts are on, but only for you. So you have to use this code and you'll get the same discount, but today only. Imagine the extra wave you get at the end of it. I think, yeah, such a good tactic. I absolutely love it. And I think, like you say, targeting the guys from last year as well. The one I wrote down that I think I've seen quite a lot actually as a customer of lots of Shopify stores, is that they'll send you something saying like, okay, Black Friday's in 3 weeks. But beat the rush. Using something like beat the rush. So like you can have your discount today. But also I think giving people a heads up, if you said, okay, we're going to do Black Friday, but we're going to do it in a month's time. We're going to put all of our, as you say, like all of our shoes are going to have 30% off on this day and this day only. What you might be doing, which is useful, and probably like more like your wife and my wife as well, the planned approach, is you're basically saying to them, like, don't spend your money elsewhere. Spend it here. This is the day. Because the challenge with Black Friday, I find, and I think the UK have been doing this more than the US, but the US is starting to do it as well, is people are starting earlier and earlier and earlier. We have a client who's going on Black Friday in September. They're like, we're just launching our cyber stuff early. And we literally said to them, like, coming back to your thing as well about the 15% discount, like, are you going to devalue what you're doing? So I think timing is really, really important. The other thing I would say on this, and this is just, again, an idea I've just had, I think, actually, to look at timing is, and looking at, like, are you going to spend your money with someone else? Are you going to spend it with us? Competitors are so important. What you can do is you can use this thing online called Wayback Machine, and there's a few other versions of it as well. You could look at what day did your competitors' public sales go live and write them all down from last year and try and preempt what day they're going to go live this year. We have one client and one client only who says there's 10 of us in our industry and 10 only. We all have a Zoom call and we all agree mutually, like, this is the Black Friday window, these 2 weeks. And if anyone breaks that pact, they're not involved in that Zoom call next year. So they won't know, which means they'll just have to go early and lower all their margins. And whatever they do will all go lower. But they've done it to go, we should do Black Friday in our industry, but let's have a pact about this so it doesn't become ridiculous, over competitive, and actually we can all make a bit more money. And I thought that's quite, they also don't bid on each other's names on Google and stuff. Like, they have quite a good relationship. But I think using something like Wayback Machine to find out when did other people go on Black Friday, and almost not doing it too early yourselves, or like you and I are both saying here, I think targeting existing customers, or I love the one about last year, people that signed up and did their first order last year. Target those guys first, but tell the new ones signing up this year they're going to get that next year. Because then you build that brand rapport, and it's like there's a real value add actually to even just subscribe, even if you don't purchase from us.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought up the kind of the cartel approach. You can do that when there's only 10 of you in the space, with a little bit of the discounting there. But the Wayback Machine is really interesting. Email wise, if you haven't used Mild.com, check out Mild, and you can check out competitor emails, or maybe it's aspirational brands. Say, hey, how did these folks do it last year? Another great one is reallygoodemails.com. But taking a look at the competitive landscape, you don't have to build a whole new novel strategy. There are millions of people in e-commerce that are thinking of these strategies, so just borrow some good ideas from others. But the big piece there is tweak it to make sure it works for your business. There are so many folks that look at something like, the Wayback Machine, or they look at an email on Mild and they say, oh my God, I have to make my email look exactly like this. It could be one of those brands that I was talking about earlier, where they have 10 or 12 people working on their email program and coordinating their social and everything else. You don't have to do exactly that. Make it work for you. You are not the same as, Macy's or, a Nordstrom's or something like that. Your promotions are your own. You're a small business, but you know your value. So it's more about conveying the value that you have, whether it's a promotion, a discount, or if it's more of that emotional of, hey, wasn't this a fun, there was an episode that we had earlier with Toasted, where Johnny talked about, wasn't that a fun tradition? And, when you give gifts, I love that fun tradition. I gave caramels to folks a couple of years ago, and now my mom's telling me, hey, this year, please make sure you give me more caramels, because that's the special thing. And your dad ate it. And I'm like, oh, come on, but there's so much that you can do to kind of decide which way to go. I love the idea of looking at what your competitors are doing. So
absolutely.
You don't have to put all that stress on yourself.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. And Mild sounds amazing. How do you spell Mild? Just if anyone wants to Google it now.
Yeah, sorry for my southern twang here. So it's Milled, Mild.
Nice.
And then the other one, really good emails.
Nice.
So just Google each of those.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I think, like you say, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think copying other people's good. I always say to clients of ours, and we do this a lot in SEO, we do this when we're looking at design of people's sites, if we're doing a CRO audit or something, we look at what we call competitors, and then we look at what we call competitive non-competitors, which is quite a long word. So competitive non-competitors, and what it is it's not people that sell your product. So you're not competing with them on Google, Facebook. You don't. If someone wants a T-shirt, they don't sell T-shirts. You do, they don't. But they look like a competitor. They have a very similar model, similar customers, etc., etc. So look at the way they're engaging with the same kind of audience. So it might be that, like one company, for example, sells really nice scented candles, whereas you don't sell candles, you sell diffusers, and they don't sell diffusers, and you don't sell candles. That's quite a nice mix. And I'm using a really simple example, but it's that kind of thing of going, I love their branding. It's, well, fine. Don't necessarily copy them, but learn from them. Look at what is working for them and subscribe to all their emails on just a Gmail account. So they don't know it's you subscribing from your business, but subscribe on a Gmail account. And I'm guessing really good email is a similar thing, isn't it? Where I'm just assuming based on the name that they've subscribed to lots of emails, and the ones they like, they post up, and you can find good ones.
You sort them based on what type of content you want to look for, all that. And the branding piece is so important. You made a little light of it, but how bright and pink your logo is. But when I'm looking through my podcast, boom, I recognize that one immediately. And those types of things are things that you can do now to drive more success and more loyalty later. Don't redesign your logo while you're sitting at the Thanksgiving dinner table. If you're going to make a change, if you're going to build those collections, get ahead of some of those things right now. So if you're building your gift guides, nothing is stopping you from building the gift guide, tagging the products, and building your automatic collections now. Nothing's stopping you from building your discounts ahead of time, coordinating all that on the calendar. I think there are a lot of things that you can do to be more successful across your entire business when it comes to the holidays, that you can prep now and not have to worry about, hey, how's this going to work out for me later?
Yeah, absolutely. And just one thing on our logo quickly, I think it's quite a valid point to what we're talking about, is the Winning with Shopify logo. Pink is not a color. I have one pink shirt and that's it. I don't wear pink. It's not a color I go to. I don't dislike it, but the point being is our designer, who's also called Nick, when we said to him, like, okay, we want a new logo, we want to stand out, his first thing, and this is about talking to customers and being fit for purpose, he said, who are your audience? And we said, oh, they're these guys. How do you know that? And it was kind of like this, we don't really know. So we actually started engaging with people and asking people to reach out and say, we just want to know who you are. Just email us and send us your store name. And that alone, he was like, cool, I know who these people are. Where does this appear? And then he looked on Apple iTunes, exactly what you've just said. You're scrolling through podcasts and we stand out. And he was like, I don't know why everyone doesn't have bright colors. Most of them were black backgrounds or black text, or they were very dark colors to try and look all suave. No, we're going pink. And it was pink, yellow, or blue. And we were like, we looked at him and like, now you've told us that it has to be pink. Pink's the brightest color, which I think is really, really key. But yeah, it certainly does stand out and it does work. But my point being is, you should be protective over your brand, but because your brand works, not because you're protective personally and going, oh, no, I don't like that item, or I don't like this color, or blue's better than red. Don't worry about that. Worry about what your customers want, because without those guys, you've got no business. And you're there to serve their needs. And isn't there there's a whole psychological side of, like, if you're supporting a need and giving people a solution to a challenge, you're going to feel more fulfilled anyway. That is the basis of a really good Shopify store, a good business, and good product. So anyway, speech over, but I think it's important.
You hit so many important things there, in knowing the brand and introducing yourself. So we were talking earlier about how you're going to drive all this new traffic to your store. You're running ads, you're bringing all this in. But then how do you help them to get to know you? And one thing that I think a lot of people overlook is they put the thought on the storefront, and then their welcome email is, hey, thanks for subscribing. We're glad you're here. Here's your discount. And that's it. You missed everything about your brand. You didn't tell them anything more about why they want to shop with you. You can dive more into, in that welcome automation, into your unique selling proposition, into your values, what makes your product different. Why do I want to buy your diffuser versus Joe Schmo's diffuser? What can they expect from you? What other unique values are you going to offer along the way? And those pieces, a lot of times I will work with clients and say, I want to build a welcome series. I have no idea what to put in there. I'll get on their website, I'll get into the About Us section, and I'll just start pulling that, popping it into the email. And they're like, oh my God, how did you come up with all this stuff? I didn't come up with any of it. I just took the content that you already know. You already know how to introduce your brand, how you would, if somebody walked into your brick and mortar store, how would you greet them? How would you tell them about what to expect? How would you kind of, again, enhance their experience? And that's where you're going to build more loyalty, and you're going to bring the new shopper back later on with more kind of along the way. So
nice. And I think that's really important, actually, and bringing it, a brand is obviously really important when the email is the communication of the brand. Bringing it back to specifically email, though, and there's a sub-question following this one as well. But when we're talking about brand values, Black Friday is traditionally a time where a different type of customer might be shopping. A lot of people save their money for Black Friday, and then they buy something that's perhaps they would consider, and let's face it, it's very emotive marketing. They would consider it more of a premium item because it's been discounted, so it's now within what they perceive as good value.
Sure.
But I think that, as you just said, actually, in that welcome series during Black Friday, you might want to get across a different set of brand values, or actually push the brand values more than you would to a non-Black Friday, non-discounted customer that's just like, oh, that's a cool product, I'm going to buy it. Those guys kind of buy into the brand more, whereas Black Friday, the messaging is different. It traditionally is very discounted. So what are some of the things people can do in that welcome series, as you mentioned, like to change that, to try and solve that problem, or get people more engaged with the brand and maybe actually increase their level of perception of what the products are worth?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be different for each person. So, you and I, we both work with a ton of different merchants, and we typically start by applying almost like a templated approach. But then where that template becomes successful is how you apply it to the individual business. So I'm going to give you some tips, but I want each person who's listening to this to think about, hey, is that going to work for me, or is that going to be a little bit different? So typically when I'm thinking about a welcome series, the first message that I'm going to put in there is going to be just more of, again, capitalizing on that short-term win, letting them know to expect. But it's really about trying to get them to open and engage. And we'll talk a little bit more about that if I could go a whole tangent on deliverability and why you need somebody to open and click your first email, how important that is to you later on. But as you start to tell your story, I think that the foundational part of that in your second message is really important. What's your origin? What's your unique values? It doesn't need to be, and I think Catherine might have shared this point to you, a long scroll, 5,000 word essay about why you felt like you could improve the world with this. But it needs to be more about, hey, where did it start? Why is my product unique and different? And it's more kind of enhancing that. Typically from there, then I'm going to go back to something that's more purchase focused. So where it used to be more, here's our best sellers, or here's some favorite collections. Now you can talk about something else. Let's disable that message and let's pop in something else that's going to be more holiday and gift giving focused. So if you want to go with those gift guides for the difficult shoppers, if you want to go with something that's more about kind of planning things out, you can put that right into your welcome series now and go ahead and start letting people, again, know what to expect as they get closer, deciding that they're going to shop with you. You built that in that second message, all of the value of your brand and your products, because you talked about the quality and the care and the thought that you put into who you are. Now you tell them in that third message, hey, and this is how you're going to get to give that to the people that are on your list this year. So I think you can kind of tweak those a little bit more.
Nice. I think it's some really good tips in there, and certainly, yeah, I think, as I said earlier, like email, the messaging is so important, isn't it? I mean, you've just given so many different examples of how that messaging needs to be portrayed across. I guess one big question, and possibly one of our last, maybe I've got another time for another topic as well afterwards, but I guess a really big question is, a lot of people listening to this going, okay, guys, this all sounds incredible, but going back to your first point, I'm not Unilever. I don't have a team of 12, 15, 20 people just to deal with email. If someone's sitting there going, okay, I've got a few hours or a day or so that I can spend between now and Black Friday, what are some of the must do things that they should focus on? And what are some of the things, perhaps just like, if you don't have the time, don't worry about that piece. This bit's critical.
Yeah. I think for me, do the site audit. Optimize that, like we talked about earlier, optimize kind of that, what do you call them? I don't want to use the correct term, overlays. Optimize your overlays on your pop-ups to bring people in. But then think about the automations. You are an incredibly busy merchant. The best thing about automations is that it sends the perfect message at the perfect time for each subscriber. They just perform the action, and now you get to determine which content is best for them at that exact moment. So optimizing the automations is going to let things run a little bit smoother. And then building out that calendar. Those are really big. And with the calendar, there's going to be some kind of introspection, and maybe that comes from looking at competitors or aspirational brands, but thinking about, are you going to be the promotional discount or the emotional messaging? You can do a lot more of that right now. You can, now if you don't have time, or if you're looking for kind of those marginal things, if you're a brand that's going to be able to replenish or restock during the holidays, or basically between now to the end of the year, get your back in stock automation going, because how many times have you gone to find the perfect gift and, oh my gosh, it's sold out again? Get notified for that. We're seeing 10x conversion rate on back in stock compared to abandoned checkout. So it used to be the best automation you could set up. Back in stock is sending a fraction of the volume and converting even higher. So it's really, really impressive how important that one is for you. Some other fun things that I like to kind of think about now is if you're going to do segmentation, you can start to plan that out. Not everybody needs to do segmentation. Everyone, you read blogs and everyone's like, segment your list and A/B test. And yes, those are fantastic things if you have the bandwidth. But planning the message content is going to be more important, getting the right content out for that. Some other fun kind of like minor things, touch up your product images. If your product images aren't square, they're not going to portray well in email. When you're building out really quickly, it's going to look, I kind of say it's jack-o'-lantern, little snaggletooth in kind of the sections. You can build your promotions out and your discount sections out ahead of time so that you can think about how those are going to work for each folks.
Nice.
There's a lot that you can do. The big one, which if you have a big enough list, and this is totally worth it, is optimizing for deliverability. The kind of the secret behind email is that the email is only as good as if people can see it, right? So how do you get your email into the inbox? How do you get it in front of your subscribers? In a lot of your lists, you just say, hey, my list is growing. That's great. But you're not kind of trimming out the non-engaged addresses that signed up 2 years ago. They never purchased. They're just kind of weighing things down. Well, each of the recipient domains will look at your list and they'll give you a reputation. And you can actually see that reputation. If you've never used Google Postmaster Tools, it's completely free. You put the one record into your DNS, and then you can see what Google thinks of your sending. And that works as long as you're sending through your own domain. If you're using a shared domain or anything like that, contact your ESP, which should be Seguno. Talk to your deliverability analyst, and we can actually look and figure out which domains are doing best for you. But it's worth it to kind of optimize that list and then think about, hey, how are you going to get the most engagement? Because that will drive your reputation up higher. Don't just send a ton of volume every day that gets really low open rates and no clicks. Think about how you're going to prove to Gmail that your message is worth putting to the inbox at the busiest time of the year. So you can do a little bit of work for that one. That one's a little bit technical, so I do recommend work with your ESP, work with your deliverability analyst. Let them kind of apply their expertise there. But again, one thing that can make a big difference for them.
Yeah. It's something Todd said last week that I think is really, really key on this actually is he basically said, like, if people are going to unsubscribe, just let them go.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hold on to them. And because I think my question that led to that was saying, well, you're sending emails twice a day. How is that not annoying? Why should people increase their send frequencies? To which he said, well, increase it slowly, but certainly, I think trimming down the list and having a look at the scores are so important.
Todd's list is a bit unique with he's dealing with fan bases. They are fanatical. They all watched the game this weekend, and they all saw who made the big catch or who fumbled or had the sack, and then they're going to all devour that content the first thing there. But everybody's a little bit different. I'm not going to be. I love a good scented candle, but I'm not going to be quite that passionate about a candle where I need to hear about it twice a day.
Absolutely. And that's where segmentation comes in as well, isn't it? It's Todd's taking the approach of like, we just want the hardcore in our email and that's it. But if you were the candle company, you could segment to like, these guys engage with our content, they read our blog posts, these guys don't. So let's just monthly email, gifts, whose birthday is it this month, kind of, you can still get some really good revenue from that. But then you've got the diehards, like every time there's something new coming out, it's like, we want to hear from you, do a survey. It's like, I'd love to do a survey, and you get 20% off if we actually bring this one in, et cetera, et cetera. So getting those guys there. But nice. Lovely stuff. Well, Brian, it's been so good to have you on the show. If someone wants to reach out to you and ask a question, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can email me directly at brian@seguno.com. We are also running a promotion specific for winning with Shopify customers, where you can actually talk with somebody like myself or Catherine, and we will do a strategy session with you for your brand. So if you're looking to make the most out of your Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I've told you again and again, I can apply the template, but really it's about your unique brand. So chat with us. I love hearing from each of the merchants and understanding more about what makes your business awesome.
Amazing. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to have you on today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, Nick. Hopefully we can do it again.
Great stuff. I'm sure we will. And for everyone listening at home, thank you so much for tuning in. We wouldn't be the same without you. This would be really awkward and very boring and completely pointless. So thank you so much for tuning in. Back again next Friday. If you've got any questions about email, hit up winningwithshopify.com. And thanks again for tuning in.